Ever send a text, like, and it just sits there sending, and you're not even sure if it went through.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's annoying, right? But imagine that, but instead of a casual text, it's like vital instructions to a Mars rover or, something critical.
Yeah, that's a whole other level.
Exactly. That's what we're diving into today,
Hmm.
how engineers make sure our data, text, videos, you name it, arrives safe and sound no matter how far it travels. It's all about error detection and correction.
Fascinating stuff.
Right. And our guide for this deep dive is an article by William L. Weaver called One If by Land, Data Transmission and Error Correction. So it gets pretty deep, but super interesting.
Well, even with all the tech jargon, it boils down to two basic strategies for handling errors, really.
Okay, so break it down for us. What are these two strategies?
Imagine sending, well, let's stick with the text message example. You send a text, and you need to be absolutely sure the other person got it. One way is, like we were saying, waiting for that delivered notification. If you don't see it, you hit send again.
Makes sense.
That's basically what we call automatic repeat request, or ARQ in the digital world. The other strategy is more like, how do I put it? It's like sending the message with built-in redundancy.
Redundancy.
Yeah, so even if some parts get messed up along the way, the message can still be pieced together on the other end, like packing a self-inflating life vest with your message in a bottle.
Okay, so instead of hoping for the best, we're like preparing for the worst case scenario. Be smart. But how does that actually work?
Think about those old railroad signals, white for go, red for stop.
Right.
Simple, right? But prone to errors if the signal gets misinterpreted. Early data transmission was kind of like that. One early method used parity bits. Basically, they make sure the number of 1 bits in a data stream is always, say, even. If a single bit flips during transmission, that parity check fails and you know something's wrong.
So it's like making sure there's an even number of socks in the dryer, lose one, and you know something's up. But what if more than 1 bit goes haywire?
Right, that's the thing. Early methods were limited, so they came up with the checksum method. It's adding up the values of all the data bits and sending the remainder along with the message. If the receiver's calculation doesn't match up, boom, error detected.
Like doing a head count at a party to make sure everyone's still there. But even that system, I'm guessing, had its flaws.
You bet. Let's say 2 values get swapped during transmission. The sum would stay the same, but the message would be messed up.
Like switching the names on a guest list. The party is still on, but the wrong people are there. Clearly, a more sophisticated system was needed.
For sure. That's where things get really interesting.
So that brings us to the cyclic redundancy check, or CRC, right?
You got it.
Okay, because now things are about to get really interesting. I can feel it.
We're moving from simple sums to, well, imagine data as part of a giant complex equation.
Okay, I'm listening.
Every bit matters. Even the tiniest change throws the whole thing off. It's a much more intricate way to guarantee the data's integrity.
But, and I'm sensing a but here, it can't be that easy, right?
Well, CRC is powerful, but it still relies on being able to ask for a resend if there's an error. And that's where things get tricky, especially when you're dealing with, say, deep space communication.
Right, like trying to have a conversation with a spacecraft millions of miles away. Not much room for, can you repeat that?
Exactly. In those situations, we need error correction, not just detection. And that's a whole other ballgame.
So we're talking about sending data that can basically fix itself. How is that even possible? That sounds incredibly complex. So we're talking about sending a message to like a spacecraft on a one-way trip. How do you even approach error correction in that scenario?
Well, a straightforward way is just by repeating the message, but doing it strategically.
Okay, how so?
Take Bluetooth's 1/3 FEC, for example. Each bit, basically a 1 or a 0, is transmitted 3 times. So even if a couple of them get flipped during transmission, the receiver can still figure out what the original message was supposed to be.
That makes sense, but wouldn't that like slow things way down, tripling every single bit?
Yeah, you're right. 1/3 FEC is super reliable, but a bit of a bandwidth hog. It's like sending a message 3 times just to make sure one copy gets through.
Right, right. So Bluetooth uses that for like short bursts of data where accuracy is super important. But what about, say, streaming music over Bluetooth? There's got to be a more elegant solution for that,
You're
right?
thinking of Hamming codes. They're ingenious, really.
Okay, so how do they work?
Instead of repeating the whole message, imagine scattering specific redundant bits throughout the data stream. These extra bits, called parity bits, act like checkpoints. allowing the receiver to not only detect but also correct single-bit errors.
Wow, so it's like sending a self-correcting message. That's wild. And this was developed back in 1948. Amazing how they came up with this stuff back then.
It's incredible, right? And the best part is, Hamming codes aren't just some abstract theory. They're actively working in the RAM of your computer, keeping your data safe.
Get out of here. You're telling me right now, while I'm worried about saving my work, my computer is running these like intricate codes in the background.
Absolutely. It's all happening behind the scenes.
That is pretty amazing. So we've gone from simple parity bits to the more robust checksum method, and now these elegant Hamming codes. What's next? Are there even more sophisticated error correction methods out there?
Oh, definitely. We've only scratched the surface. As our need to transmit more and more data has grown, so have the methods to protect it. There are things like Reed-Solomon codes used in CDs and DVDs, and even more complex algorithms like Viterbi decoding, which is used in satellite communication.
Wow, so it's like a whole other world of like coding and algorithms that most of us never even see.
Exactly, and it's all happening behind the scenes to make sure our digital lives run smoothly.
So with all these incredible methods already in place, what's driving the need for even more advanced error correction? What's next?
Well, it's all about pushing the limits of data transmission, isn't it? Faster speeds, more bandwidth, perfect reliability, even in challenging environments.
So it's not just about fitting more data into the airwaves, it's about making sure that data is like bulletproof.
Exactly. Think about self-driving cars, remote surgery, the metaverse. All these innovations need rock-solid data integrity.
It's not just a dropped call or a glitchy video anymore. We're talking about systems that could literally save lives.
You got it. And that's what makes error correction such a critical field.
It really is incredible to think about. All this complex math and engineering, all to make sure our digital lives work seamlessly. And it sounds like this is just the beginning. So we're not just throwing more data into the air, but we need to make sure the methods we're using can actually handle it. So are we talking about entirely new types of error correction? Or just like improving what we already have?
It's a bit of both, really. Think about the difference between sending, say, an audio file and streaming a live video.
Okay, yeah.
Few flipped bits in a song you might not even notice. But for video, even a single messed up frame, and it's super obvious.
True, true.
So while some techniques, like those Reed-Solomon codes we mentioned, are already really good, the focus now is on fine-tuning those methods for specific types of data and, different transmission environments.
So like different tools for different jobs.
Exactly. You wouldn't use a hammer to fix a watch. Same idea here. You want the right error correction method for the type of data and how critical it is, like a text message versus a live surgery video feed, totally different ballgame.
Right. It's about that level of accuracy and knowing that it's going to work. But it's not just about adapting what we have, right? There's new stuff on the horizon too.
Absolutely. Quantum computing, for example, has the potential to completely revolutionize error correction.
Okay, now we're getting really futuristic.
We're talking about codes that aren't just complex, but work in a completely different way. It's a whole new world of possibilities.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it. All this innovation happening behind the scenes, so our digital lives are, well, easy. We just expect things to work, but every time we send a message, watch a movie, even just open a file, there's this whole system working to keep our data safe.
It really speaks to how amazing the engineers who work on this are. It's a constant challenge, especially as we demand faster networks, more data, more devices. The bar for error correction just keeps getting higher.
It makes you wonder what's next. With self-driving cars, the Internet of Things, all these futuristic technologies, error correction is going to be even more important.
For sure. It's the unsung hero of our digital lives, and who knows, maybe someone listening right now will be the one to crack the next big code.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the future of data and the brilliant minds working to keep it safe. This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us.